Let's create a book tower with suspense books. That should be fairly simple for me. Can I do it? Hi, my name is Jeanette, and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So I'm sitting a little off today because I have my table here so that I can put the books I'm going to talk about on it so I can create a tower. Let's see if this is going to work. Okay, so for my Christian Fiction Reading Challenge for 2024, December's prompt is to read a book in your most read genre. For me, that is romantic suspense. And I've already done a video with romantic suspense recommendations in August, so I will link that below. Maybe I did it in July, getting ready for the August readathon. Actually, now that I think about it, either way, that video will be linked below with my most recent romantic suspense recommendations. And I was like, what am I going to do for this? Then I saw Tammy at Protagonist Pub do a tag called the Book Tower Challenge. And then I saw Amanda do it from Book Lover Amanda, and I was like, oh, I could do this tag with all the romantic suspense books. Now this works for majority of the questions, but there is one, it does not work at all. So I'm just going to skip over that one. I'm going to tell you what the question is, because if you want to do this Book Tower Challenge, go ahead and do it. You do not have to theme it like I am theming it, but that is what we're going to do. So I've written out each question and kind of what book I'm going to use for that question so that I didn't repeat any books and kind of showcase different authors that I have on my shelves. So these are all physical books I own, and majority of them I have read within the last couple years. Some of them I have not read, but okay, let's just dive right into it. So, number 1 is a first book in a series. Point of Danger by Irene Hannon. This is book number 1 of the Triple Threat series. So in this series, we are following 3 sisters. So in this one, we meet the first sister, and she is a radio personality and gets a package left at her door that most likely is a bomb. The police come and respond to it, and she makes a connection with the detective, and they're working together trying to figure out what is going on. I loved this book. So that is book number 1. Okay, so you're not going to first see the first couple books. Okay, so then book number 2. Or question number 2 is a second book in a different series. Well, I had to use this one somewhere. In Too Deep by Lynn H. Blackburn. This is book number 2 of the Dive Team Investigation series. I have read this series twice and loved it each time. This was the series that introduced me to Lynn Blackburn's writing, and I fell in love with the characters. And book number 2 is my favorite of the series. In this one, we are following Adam and Sabrina, who we have met in book number 1, because this series follows the dive team members, and the group of friends and co-workers are very active in each book. So we've already met Adam, who is a member of the dive team in book 1, and Sabrina, who is a forensic... why can I not think what she is? Yeah, computer nerd, some sort. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I loved it. And the thing that sticks out to me the most in this book is chapter 1. Like, it just, there's a hook in there that it was like, I have to keep reading and find out what's going on. And then I just love the characters. So that is book number 2. Okay, question number 3 is a book with blue on the cover. For that one, I've pulled Private Justice by Terry Blackstock. This is book number 1 of the Newport 9/11 series. And we are following emergency personnel in the town of Newpoint. Did I say Newport? I meant Newpoint. And this one, their firefighter wives are being killed. and what is going on. So we are following Mark, who is a firefighter, and his wife Allie, and they are recently separated, and can they reconcile? And is Allie in danger because Mark is no longer living at the house? So does that kind of save her or not? And then this brings up the feelings again, and we're hoping for reconciliation, but what is going to happen? So this introduces us to the firefighters and the police officers in this town trying to figure out what's going on. I loved this book. This was definitely my favorite of this series. Okay, number 4 is a book that's title is 7 letters long. No more, no less. So that took a little going to find, but I did come across one, and that is If I Live by Terry Blackstock. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is book number 3 of the If I Run series. So it wraps up the story of Casey being on the run, and is she guilty of what they think she's guilty of or not, and what's going to happen. I love this series. This series is definitely a cliffhanger series. Each book ends, you need to know what's going on next. So this is book 3, and it just wraps it all up. So this is not a cliffhanger book because it does wrap up the series. You still can't see it yet. Oh well. Okay. Book number 5. A book you've never read. So obviously I've never read this one. And I asked my best friend to pick a number from 1 to 26 for my romantic suspense shelf. So that is that shelf there in the middle that they're all laying flat. And she picked number 7. But I moved to book number 1 because I was book number 2 of a series and I haven't read the series. Okay, so book number 1 is Standoff by Patricia Bradley. I've never read this book. I don't really know anything about it. It's the start of a 4-book series. Each book is one title long, or one word long. And it is set in Tennessee, I want to say. Yes. So it is called the Natchez Trace Park Rangers. I could be saying that name wrong. Most likely am saying that name wrong. And it says, an explosive start to a brand new series. The Natchez Trace National Parkway stretches 444 miles from Nashville to Natchez, the oldest town on the Mississippi River. It's the perfect road for a relaxed pleasure drive. Unfortunately for Luke, it's also the perfect for moving drugs. Sent to Natchez to infiltrate the organization at the center of the drug ring, Luke arrives too late to a stakeout and discovers the body of his friend, Park Ranger John. John's daughter, Brooke, is determined to investigate her father's murder, but soon finds herself the target of a killer who will do anything to silence her. Luke will have his hands full keeping her safe. But who is going to keep him safe when he realizes he's falling hard for the daughter of the man he failed to save? I am really looking forward to starting this series. I've not read anything by Patricia Bradley before, so this would be a new author for me as well. But it just sounds so good, and I've heard high praise for her writing. Okay, then book number 6. A book with the sky on it. I had a few of these, so that was pretty easy. So we got Lifelight by Lynette Eason. So there's mountains, there's the sky, helicopter flying in the sky. I probably could have picked a few others, but this is the one I'm going with because I really enjoyed this book. It is book 1 of her Extreme Measures series, and we are following 4 girlfriends who all have pretty dangerous jobs, I would say. This one, Penny, is a EMS helicopter pilot. She's used to high-stress situations, but is being forced to land on a mountain in a raging storm with a critical patient and a serial killer on the loose. Then she survives with FBI agent, Special Agent Holt Satterfield's help. But she's not out of the woods yet. What's going to happen? So she is trying to save somebody, But there's also a serial killer who has escaped from prison and is on this mountain where she needs to land, and the FBI are trying to find her. Like, it is high stakes from the beginning. I loved this story. Okay, then, really, I thought by now you'd be on the screen. Oh well. Number 7, an author with the same first letter of their forename as yours. I thought, oh, I'm not going to succeed at this one because my name is Jeanette, so it starts with a J, and I'm like, what authors in the romantic suspense genre start with a J? But I did have one on my shelf. I have not read this book yet, and that is Rising Danger by Jershu Again? I'm butchering her name. I have no idea, but it starts with a J. And it's up to a canine handler and her canine partner to stop a bomber before it's too late. I don't know. Oh, it's Twin Cities, it says. It almost made me wonder if it was going to be set in Alaska. I don't know why I thought that from the cover, but... And I don't even know. Well, it's published by Love Inspired Suspense, so I don't know if it's a series or not. I don't know. Oh, we're getting there. You're almost there. Okay, number 8, a classic. I immediately thought of the O'Malley series by D. Henderson. So this is 3 books in one. This is books 1, 2, and 3. So we've got The Negotiator, The Guardian, and The Truth Seeker. In this whole series, it is a 7-book series. So there are 6 standalones, or not standalones, 6 full-length books, and then a prequel novella, which actually came out after these 6 books were written. So it is recommended if you read this in publication order. So start with The Negotiator and then finish with the prequel novella, Jennifer. Otherwise, Jennifer kind of spoils a little bit of what's going on in the family if you read it first. So I've read it both ways, but yeah. So this one, in this series, we are following 7 young adults, or like 20s, 30s, like they're all professionals now, who met when they were kids in an orphanage and formed their own family, decided to become brothers and sisters legally, and changed their name to the O'Malleys. So their last name is all O'Malley. And each book focuses on one of the siblings. And so book number 1 is Kate. Yes, wow, good for me. She is a negotiator with the police department. Book number 2 is with Marcus, who is a U.S. Marshal. He is the oldest of the siblings. And then book number 3, The Truth Seeker, is Lisa, who is a forensic pathologist. And so each one, because then we also have a firefighter and EMS. And my mind's blanking on what the 6. And then a doctor is one of them. I cannot think of what that 6th person is. Oh well. Doesn't matter. This is a great series, and it is a bit of romance and a lot of suspense. So in Kate's book, they're dealing with planes, I think. It's bomber on a plane. Yes, when an airline explodes, Kate is faced with the shocking evidence that the bomber may be someone she knew. And Dave is about to discover that loving a hostage negotiator is one thing, but protecting her is another matter entirely. Highly recommend this series, and I feel like this is a classic in Christian fiction. This came out in... So the original book came out in 2000. So it's 24 years old. Okay. Now, number 9 is a nonfiction. Well, obviously, I can't do a romantic suspense nonfiction. That's not going to work. So that's the one that I can't do. Okay, number 10. A book with 4 or more colors on its spine. Now this was hard, but I did come up with one, and that is Against the Odds by Irene Hannon. So we've got black, kind of brown, white, going to blue, like there's multiple colors on this spine. This is book number 1 of the Heroes of Quantico series. This is the old cover, but this is the book that introduced me to Irene Hannon's writing. I remember borrowing this book from a friend, and I wanted to read more from her after I read this one. And I've read a lot from her since. So I do want to reread this one because it's been a number of years since I read it. This one came out 2009, and I probably read it shortly after release. So it has been a number of years. I can't even really tell you what it's about off the top of my head because it's been so long. But it's FBI hostage rescue team member Evan Cooper and his partner, dignitary protection duty should have been for his... Wow, that was horrible. For FBI hostage rescue team member Evan Cooper and his partner, dignitary protection duty should have been a piece of cake. Unfortunately, beautiful but determined Monica isn't making it easy. Estranged from her diplomatic father, who is involved in a sensitive hostage situation in the Middle East, she refuses to be intimidated by a related terrorist threat back in the States. That is, until a chilling warning convinces her that the danger is very real and escalating. So, our romance does develop as per romantic suspense. Okay, then we have number 11, a book that says #1 New York Times Bestseller on the front. Well, I don't have that exact wording. I just don't have the #1 part. I do have New York Times Bestseller, and that is A Distant Shore by Karen Kingsbury. This is romantic suspense. She does not write very much in this genre. This was the very first book I'd ever read by Karen Kingsbury because I'm just not that interested in the other ones. And I loved it. So we are following why did that just escape me? Human trafficking type story. And yeah, she never dared to hope. He never dreamed to feel this way until a miracle brought them together in a fight for their lives. She was a child caught in a riptide in the Caribbean Sea. He was a teenager from the East Coast on vacation with his family. He dove in to save her, and that single terrifying moment changed both of their lives forever. 10 years later, Jack is a daring undercover agent with the FBI, and Eliza still lives on that pristine island. Only now she's the untainted princess in a kingdom of darkness and evil, on the brink of a forced marriage with a dangerous neighboring drug lord, a marriage arranged by her father. This time, when Jack and Eliza meet, both their lives are on the line, and once again the stakes are deadly high. Can they join forces in a complicated and dangerous mission, pretending to have a breathtaking love without really falling for each other? Sometimes miracles happen, not once, but twice, on a distant shore. So, yes, I highly recommend this book. And it is a standalone. Okay, then we have number 12. The smallest in width and length, not just pages, book on your shelf. Okay, so to stay in the romantic suspense genre theme, I had to go with love-inspired suspense. So all my books for love-inspired are this size. So then I went with the shortest one of them, and that is Calculated Revenge by Jill Elizabeth Nelson. So in this one, there's a teacher, what's her name, Lainey? I was close. It's been 18 years since Lainey's sister went missing. She is out on the school playground and discovers a backpack was left behind. But it looks very, very familiar. It is the backpack that was left behind by her sister that went missing 18 years ago. What is going on? And so then we kind of follow that. Like, why is this backpack who she thinks it is? If so, why? How did it show up there? What's going on? For a like novella type read, it's 212 pages long. It is intense and kept me invested the whole read through. Okay, now number 13, the latest book you bought. Okay, so the most recent suspense book I bought was Across the Kill by Andrew Huff. This one I saw recommended by Caitlin from Chronicles of a Book Nerd, and I happened to see it in a thrift store very shortly after she talked about it in a video, and it was a whole $2. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. So this is the latest one that I bought. And it says, can John Cross keep his vow of peace when killers come to call? Oh, that's like the White House, sort of. Capitol building. I never really noticed that. I thought it was two faces at first. And maybe it is. Not really, I don't know. But, wow. Okay. Now, number 14. A book that has a cover with a face on it. Again, that was pretty simple for me. So I went with Crossfire by Lynette Easton. This is book number 2 of her Extreme Measures series. And as you see, there's her face. This is Juliana, who is an FBI special agent. And they are dealing with a hostage, actually. Oh, I guess she is a negotiator. Yes. So a classroom gets taken hostage, and they're trying to solve this and kind of bring a peaceful end to this. Again, great book. I really enjoyed it. And there is a nice romance that develops very slowly and kind of behind the scenes a little bit. And then there's sibling relationships that happen that I just really liked. Number 15, a spin-off book. This one I wasn't sure what it really meant, so I went with Unknown Threat by Lynn H. Blackburn because this is book 1 of her Defend and Protect series. So we're following a whole new group of characters. We're following Secret Service agents that are based in Raleigh, North Carolina. And so it's completely separate from her Dive Team Investigations series. However, the Dive Team Investigation characters make appearances in this book. Or even if they don't show up in person, the characters from this one will call them and talk to them. So they are mentioned. So for me, that was a spin-off because characters carried over in a completely separate series. Again, I loved this book. This was my favorite of this series, actually. And I don't normally enjoy book 1 the most of the series, but this was definitely my favorite. And Secret Service agents are being killed. And that there's not many surviving in that office, and what is going on? Okay, number 16. A book that was published over 10 years ago. Okay, well, I've already mentioned a few of them. So then I went with back to Dee Henderson, and we got True Valor. This is book number 2 of her Uncommon Heroes series, but for this series, it really could be read as standalones for each one. The books do not carry over. You meet the characters, or at least one of the characters from this book in book 1, but that's about it. Their storyline doesn't carry over at all. And this one I really enjoyed because it's basically 2 characters, Gracie and Bruce, who are both deployed in different places. He is a pararescue jumper and she is a pilot, maybe? Yes, she's a pilot. Naval aviator, yes. And they fall in love through letters. So through correspondence that they write back and forth to each other. I love that. So yes, and this one was published in 2002. So 22 years ago. That is more than 10 years ago. Okay, number 17. A book with a sequel coming out next year. Okay, well, Target Acquired by Lynette Eason is book number 2 of the Lake City Heroes series. And book number 3 is Serial Burn, and it is coming out January 21st of 2025. And I cannot wait. I love the cover. Number 18. An author who is the same first letter of their forename as their surname. Okay, so I immediately thought of Colleen Coble. And one of the ones I have on my shelf that I have not read, actually I don't have any of her books on my read shelf. What? I must have borrowed them all. Okay, so, but Edge of Dusk by Colleen Coble. This is book number 1 of the Annie Pedersen novel series, and I think it's a 3-book series. I don't really know anything about it. However, I have heard Amanda rave about this book, so I want to read it. So I picked it up at a thrift store, and it was $3.29. So yeah, I can't even read because of where the sticker is. I can't even read like that first paragraph or even the tagline. Maybe I should take the sticker off, but I also like knowing what I paid for it. So yeah, and it's on the back. It doesn't ruin the cover. So I'm okay going in blind. I mean, I really could look up the description on Goodreads, but I'm not going to. Okay, number 19, a book with an epilogue. Again, that was fairly easy because there's quite a few. But I went with Into the Fire by Irene Hannon. This is book number 1 of her Undaunted Courage series. This one just released last year, I want to say, because Over the Edge just came out in October. So yeah, this was October of 23. And it does have an epilogue. If I can find it. Preview for the next book. Epilogue. So we are following Bree. I am so close to the name, but so far because, yeah. So we are following Bree, who is a fire investigator, and a previous fire investigator has been killed, and they're trying to figure out what happened. Like, is it an accident, or is there something else behind it? And so she has to work with an ATF special agent, Mark. And yes, more develops between the two of them. Again, I love it. I really like Irene Hannon's suspense books. Okay, so there is my stack. I'm going to put my Love Inspired book because my stack would be really bad if I put that in the middle. Okay, number 20 is a book that has a title that features a made-up word. This is another one I had none for. All my suspense books have real words from the dictionary in it. So that is okay. But here is what? This is probably 18 books because that's 20 and I'm missing 2. So yeah, 18. Yikes. Okay, so there is my book tower for romantic suspense or even just suspense because I'm not sure if that one has romance in it. But there are all suspense for sure. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.